What is up, guys? Today we are breaking down this week's upcoming UFC Reignmaker card, Blaydes versus Pavlovich. I'm giving you guys my top 5 picks, the reasons why I like these picks. Let's go! Okay, so looking at the whole fight card here, I like to look at a couple things to put things into context here. Um, Number one, I want to know how many points this fight card as a whole is going to score. How high of the winning lineup? How high is that winning lineup going to score? Basically, two things I like to look at here. Number one is how many fights are in the whole fight card, because the more number of fights there are, the more probability that the scores are going to be higher because there's more opportunity to score points with more fights and more fighters. Duh. And here we're having 12 fights, which is considered a small fight card. 13 is the line I draw, medium. Anything above 13 is big. Anything below 13 is considered 12. So we do have a small fight card here with 12. That means that it's more likely to score lower, the winning lineup here. The second thing I like to know with respect to how many points are going to be scored is number one, the inside the distance lines, and number two, how many wrestlers there are. Because wrestlers, as we all know, score a good amount of points. And when fights, when fighters finish their opponent inside the distance, it's more like, especially if it's the first round, more likely to score higher points. So number one, the ITD lines as a total for each fight are pretty good in this fight card. Um, we have negative 900 with Blaydes and Pavlovich, the main event, which is huge. Vegas is predicting them to definitely finish inside the distance. And aside from that, they're all pretty good. We only have one that's 200 and above, the Dumont and Rosa, 250. And then we have 110, 195, 185, which is uh, not basically in the middle. And then we have negative 200, negative 190, negative 215, negative 325. So pretty good inside the distance lines here. So what I take from those two variables, the number of fights and the potential for points, which wrestlers and ITD. So a number of fights are saying that the points are going to be low, but the ITD and wrestlers, which there's 6 of them, are telling me that the points are going to be high. And so those two variables oppose each other. One thing is saying that the score is going to be low, and the other thing is saying the score is going to be high. The amount of fights is saying the score is going to be low. The ITD lines and the number of wrestlers are saying the scores are going to be high. So my battle plan for this fight card is to have a mixture of volatile high ceiling fights and low low ceiling high floor safe fights, so a mixture of those two, because that's what those previous two variables are telling me here. The last variable I like to look at here is how many live underdogs there are, and the live underdogs I would say is anything that's below a 2-to-1 underdog. So I'm looking at how many moderate to heavy favorites there are, and there's only four: Marshall, Green, Lucindo, and Jackson. So basically, everybody's live, with the exception of these last three of Rani Rani Yaya, Brogan Walker, and Jared Gordon. I like to to differ with the Jared Gordon being so low, which we'll get to in a little bit. But basically, all these guys are live up here from Gomez. I would say Gordon, actually, Gordon up to Jackson. And what this means is um, the majority of winners, we can say, I don't want to say the majority, but there's a good chance that there's going to be winners coming in this range, which is good because it allows us to save a lot of money. And that's the name of the game we're playing here, right? We're trying to win and be efficient with our money. We're not just picking all the fighters up here because that means we're not being efficient with our money, and we're more likely to be duplicated. So we want to pick down here because number one, the dogs are very live, and number two, it saves us money. Last thing I want to say about this, I want to play a lot of lineups here because um, playing regular DFS, I like to max out. I like to play over 100 lineups and cards like this because there's so many fighters to choose from that are live dogs, It's just a matter of a numbers game here, just throwing low owned fighters and DFS realm. And this realm, you do want low owned fighters, which we know are usually the fighters with low win odds. But this gives us a double, a second incentive to pick these fighters because it does save us money. It's low ownership and it saves us money. So I want to play as many lineups as I can. So I'm gonna be playing a couple rare lineups, and I'm gonna be playing a bunch of common lineups. The core, I believe they're called, not common, they're called core contests. You can field a lot, a bunch of lineups at cheap prices. Just looking at it right now, as of what are we? What's today? Thursday night. Um, Gomi's 55 cents, 35 cents. So you can field a lineup of five fighters with less than $5. So, and as we know, in the last fight card, half of the winners in that fight card were underdogs. So there's a good chance that that result can be repeated because the layout of the fight card is very similar to last week's fight card. Okay, so with all that said, considering those variables, I just want to give you an explanation of why I like these fighters that I'm about to pick right now. I don't just like them personally. Some of them I do, some of them I don't. I just like them because they fit the mold of the way this fight card is constructed when you take into consideration the numbers. So number one I'm looking at is Curtis Blaydes. I like him because number one, he's in the main event, obviously. Number two, he has the highest inside the distance fight at negative 900. That's ridiculously high. That fight is gonna finish inside the distance. So even if he wasn't the main event, I'd definitely be attacking that fight. What steers me away from Pavlovich, and the reason why I'm picking Blaydes, is he does have that wrestling upside. He's more well-rounded fighter. He is improving his hands. He does have stand up, but his wrestling is what separates him from Pavlovich, in my opinion. Pavlovich hasn't really faced an opponent like him. Blaydes the Blaydes definitely wins the level of their opponents. I know there's another word for it, but it's totally slipping my mind. He's fought Aspinall, which is kind of was a weird fight. Aspinall got hurt, but he fought Dawkins, Rosenstruck, Lewis. The point I'm trying to prove here is Pavlovich hasn't fought a fighter like Blaydes, whereas Blaydes has fought an elite striker like Pavlovich. Rosenstruck, Lewis, Volkov, Dos Santos, Noganu, Overeem, Hunt. So he's found these elite strikers. So he has experience with them, whereas Pavlovich hasn't had an experience fighting a well-rounded fighter that has really good wrestling, such as Blaydes. If you look at his log, he hasn't really fought anybody of that caliber or of that style, and he's a round one or bust type fighter because all his fights have ended in the first round. So if you're going with Pavlovich, you're banking on him winning in the first round. And if that doesn't happen, we've seen many times before the fighter who's only gone one round, especially if it's a main event where there's an opportunity to go beyond 3, 4 rounds. I know this fight, it's predicted to be negative 900 at a distance, but it can still possibly go those extra rounds. Pavlovich might be in trouble if the fight doesn't finish in the first round. And Blaydes, I feel like, has the talent and the fight IQ to mitigate that getting knocked out in the first round. He's not like he's not a Tai Tuivasa, he's not a Derek Lewis that's just gonna stand and bang with them. Curtis Blaydes definitely a more strategic fighter here. That's why I like him as my number one pick. Number two and three, I know it's kind of walking the line here, but I can't pick between them two. I do lean one towards one over the other, but not completely. It's the Junior Tafa and Mohammed Usman. Um, they're basically a 50-50 fight. That's where they're predicted, according to Vegas. They're the second highest inside the distance line at negative 325. And we don't know much at all about these two fighters. It's Tafa's debut. We do know he's more of a decorated stand-up striker than Usman. Usman has fought in the UFC, knocked out Pawa. So he has one fight in the UFC to win the Ultimate Fighter, right? He was in the Ultimate Fighter. So still a lot of unknowns here. That's why it's hard for me to pick one over the other. But I do lean towards Tafa because he is more of a decorated striker. But definitely this fight seems that it's gonna finish inside the distance. We do want that high ceiling fighter and this fits the mold. I do give everybody a caution here. We don't know much about these fighters, so this can be a very sloppy fight where they're gonna gas out and score very little points and gonna upset a lot of people. It's a very much possibility here. So do proceed with caution here. Okay, so my fourth pick here is Bruno Silva. He just went to war with Alex Pereira, and we all know Alex Pereira was the ex middleweight champion. So very impressive to go to all three rounds with him and have a good fight with Pereira. Actually, it got Pereira with a couple of good shots here. So we know Bruno Silva is very capable of striking with anybody in that division if he's going to be able to strike with Pereira. And I like Silva here because as an underdog, he does have a good ITD inside the distance at 35%. You are going to save money here with him because, as we all know, the lower win odds fighter are cost less. But he's very live, 42.7% win percentage, which in this card seems low, but in reality it's pretty high. It just there's so many of them that it seems low here. That's why they're cheaper. That's why I'm gonna target these more. And I like his floor here because Brad Tavares is not a finisher. If he is gonna win, most likely it's gonna be in a decision. Vegas has him at a 29% inside the distance, one of the lowest ones as a favorite. So even if Silva loses, he's gonna give you a good floor. He's not gonna ruin your whole lineup. When you're taking your shots at these underdogs, you don't want to pick a fighter that's gonna lose and score you less than 10 points. You want to pick an underdog that if he loses, it's gonna go to decision and he's gonna score you 30, 35 points. So you might not get top five place, but maybe you will. Definitely has been uh, winners that have had a loss in their lineup, but that loser does have to score a good. Um, but he's not going to break your whole lineup if he does lose. All right, my last pick here, and it's somewhat similar to the reasons why I picked Bruno Silva, is Jared Gordon here. Usually, I don't like picking these fighters that are 2-1 underdogs or greater, but I feel like they're disrespecting Gordon here a little bit. They have him at 31.7% win percentage, which with number 215 underdog. Like I said, usually I don't like going here, but this week I am gonna go here. Um, he's coming off an arguable win off of Pimlet, which is very impressive. Consider it's Patty Pimlet, no matter what your opinion is of him. And Bobby Green, he's kind of a loose cannon here. As we all know, his style of fighting is very volatile. He does like have his hands down. His ITD line is at 27%, which is one of the lowest ones as a favorite. So even if he does win, most likely it's going to go to a decision. And having Gordon as an underdog, and if he does lose, and a decision loss, most likely it's going to give you a good floor. So it's not going to break your lineup like Bruno Silva. I mean, so similar to Bruno Silva. Of course, if you have both of them in your lineup, then they both lose, suck, and it'll put you in a very tough spot. Maybe still mid cash there, maybe not. But we're hoping that at least one of them wins or both of them wins optimally, which is very possible here. Um, Going back to Bobby Green, we all know he likes to play with his food, likes to mess around. He might be messing around with Jared Gordon. And if Bobby Green does win, most likely it's going to go to a decision, giving Jared Gordon a safe floor. If Jared Gordon wins, you're going to look like a genius. He costed you 30 cents, and bam, you have a 30-cent win. Talk about efficiency with your money. Last thing I want to talk about before we leave, and this is a little tip for everybody playing Reignmakers. When you're going for these low win percentage fighters like Gordon and Silva and any other ones that I didn't talk about, but there are definitely other ones that are live and you should definitely look at. Instead of just picking up their event card for that event, I like to look at their year round cards because you could get them at a discount considering they're being in such a crappy position. Like Gordon, he's so low win percentage. Even if he does lose Bobby Green, maybe next fight he won't have such a hard opponent, and maybe he'll even be a favorite in his next fight. Because there's not much lower you can go than below here. So you could pick up a Jared Gordon at a cheap prices year round, get him, use him to play this fight card, and then the next fight card most likely he's going to be higher up in the win percentage, and he's going to cost more, and you got him at a discounted price because this previous fight he was I don't know, low win percentage. Similar concept to Bruno Silva. Look at the year round. I'm not saying buy him. Generally, what I like to do is, so say Jared Gordon's 99 cents. Um, his common card here is 31 cents. I like to look at if it's at least less than half. So if his common card was less than 60 cents, I would get it 60 cents or lower. He's at $1 currently right now, so I don't think that's a good deal. But those opportunities do present itself. It's just not in this case. It's just a little tip I would like to give you guys moving forward when you're buying those cards. Also look at the year-round cards and see if you can get value off of them. Done.